ultimately AI and robotics will be able to do your job better. It's just a question of timeline.
Is things changing now that you have AI?
Dramatically. Dramatically. Imagine that you have the world's expert in any topic available to you 24/7 for $200 a month. That's what AI is like.
What is your prediction about AI in the upcoming 3 years?
AI is a massive anxiety pill. And so finding people that are both already good at something and willing to embrace AI is very difficult. I can guarantee whatever you're trying to do is going to be hard. So you are going to struggle. If you don't know how to use AI, you will get fired. That is for sure. When you have money and a fearlessness, you can end up blowing a lot of money.
Then you sold the company. Did you regret sometimes? Bueno, chicos y chicas, qué gusto teneros de regreso. Fernando Ansúrez de este lado, estamos en el podcast de Doers. Como pueden ver, el estudio cambió, es un estudio diferente. Y es un estudio diferente porque venimos a Los Ángeles a entrevistar a una persona que ha impactado nuestras vidas. Por supuesto, una persona que ha impactado mi vida y a través de ese impacto te he contado muchísimo acerca de él. A él no le gusta que hablemos mucho de él, le gusta hablar más de los resultados, pero a mí me encanta decirle cómo ha marcado mi vida. Hello everyone and welcome to one more episode of Doers, the podcast. And today I'm with a very good friend and a person that has impacted my life a lot. He doesn't want to have the blah, blah, blah about emotions and sentimental, but I have to say it. I mean, I was sure that I want to see XMAP bigger, but when I started to listen to this guy and follow his episode and the physics of progress that Tom normally talks or speaks about, I really convinced myself that it is possible to convert your company in an exponential thing. And I really are very thankful because of that. And thank you for being here. Tom Bilyeu, no more BS.
Hey, I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. One of the questions that I had is that, of course, for some of the audiences in Latin America that never heard about you, tell us a little bit about yourself, about your ADHD.
Okay, well, I'll speed run it. And then if there's anything that you find interesting, just ask follow-ups.
Please.
At the time I was 12, I realized I wanted to be a filmmaker, went to film school. Thought I would get the 3-picture deal when I graduated. I did not. This is the 90s, so there's no cell phones with cameras on them. There's no YouTube. Oh, geez. Definitely no ChatGPT. So really felt stuck and did not know how to get into the industry and ended up meeting 2 very successful entrepreneurs. And they said, you're coming to the world with your hand out. And if you want to control the art, you have to control the resources. So you should get into business and get rich. And then you can build your own studio. And I was like, yeah, that sounds perfect. I thought it would take 18 months. It took 15 years, but it did work. And so that's how I've ended up here. So Impact Theory, so built Quest, that was the company that made me wealthy. So that was a nutrition company. And when I did it, was unsure that my partners and I would ever be able to like really make it a success and exit. So when I was in it and tried to integrate storytelling and things like that. And it just so happened to happen right at the time that this thing we now call social media was coming up. So I had a vehicle finally to be able to tell stories about a protein bar company, oddly enough, that people saw. And it started to grow and took off like crazy. And we grew by 57,000% in manufacturing. So this wasn't software. This is like buying protein and getting physical space and going from 3,000 square feet to 300,000 square feet. Literally 3 employees to 3,000 employees. It was crazy. That ends up becoming incredibly successful, end up selling the company so that I could start Impact Theory. My last day at Quest was a Monday, and then Tuesday we started Impact Theory and are building a studio right now. So we're primarily known for YouTube. We also have a university where we teach people basically how to use AI to build businesses called Impact Theory University, Zero to Founders, the program. And then my absolute passion, the thing that I scratches the itch in a different way than I would have expected, but scratches the same itch from me wanting to be a filmmaker at 12 is we develop video games. And so our first game called Project Kaizen will be coming out. It goes into early release December of 2027. So we have a little over 21 months and counting.
Let me stop in there. When you launched Quest, you were ahead of the curve. I mean,
Yes.
you guys, for some reason that I know involves Lisa, you said, this is it. This is going to be a trend, or you started because of your own problems with food?
Well, we started because of our own problems, but the really interesting thing was looking at it and not thinking in terms of trends or anything like that, just saying, okay, what's metabolically real? And we knew, okay, this has got to be something we'll be passionate about because we don't know we'll ever be successful. So the way I always explained it to people, I can guarantee whatever you're trying to do is going to be hard. So you are going to struggle. What I can't guarantee is that you'll be successful. So make sure it's something that you would love doing even if you were failing. And so for me, it was about my family. So I grew up in a morbidly obese family. I wanted to do something that would help specifically my mom and my sister. And it was like, what if we could make food that they could choose based on taste and it happened to be good for them? Would that, could that be a business? And so that's where we started, not realizing that the whole world was about to wake up to the fact that sugar is the problem. Mm-hmm. So we were making protein bars that tasted like they had sugar, but didn't. And that ended up being one of the big breakthroughs. And by accepting that we were going to have to become our own manufacturers to be able to make a bar that tasted like it had sugar, but didn't, that ended up being a really big unlock. And doing that, so we were completely novel, 0 to 1, in terms of this type of product just simply did not exist. We brought it into existence by learning manufacturing ourselves, engineering our own equipment. I mean, it was really crazy. And then understanding storytelling better than the next and doing what is now social media before it was called social media because you happen to have a filmmaker that was one of the 3 founders. And so we got, in any really tremendous success story, you just get the timing right. And it wasn't like we were super geniuses that were like, this is exactly what's about to happen and we're just going to go get the timing right. It was being fed up with what we'd been doing before for our own reasons, deciding we were going to start this new thing. All of that was somewhat accidental timing. And then, just through who we were as individuals, ended up making the thing that the world really wanted right then.
Then you sold the company, and Quest right now still growing.
Yeah, it's crazy.
You can see the portfolio. Now they have a very diverse portfolio. They are in a lot of categories. Did you regret sometimes about...
Not even for a second.
Selling the company?
No. It was amazing, and I'm so glad that we did it. But for me, it was always meant to be the thing that would lead to impact theory. And if people really understood, because my public persona is very difficult to get it to match my internal life. My internal sense of self is that of the storyteller. So I am a writer. That's largely how I view myself. Mm-hmm. I think in stories. I've been impacted by stories. I've always wanted to tell my stories. And so for me, this is like, okay, I finally made it. Like it took me a really long time, but I'm finally here at the thing.
It wasn't a long time, man.
It was a very long time. I've been trying to pull this off since I was 12.
Okay.
And I'm now pushing 50. So for me, this has felt like, oh my goodness, this has been a very long journey. Okay. And even now, the one thing in my life that I have not yet proven I can do is tell stories. So it's this great irony of I've had tremendous business success. I've even had success in media, but I've never told. We did a comic. The comic was successful for how small of a publisher we are, but nothing most people are going to remember. And so there's a lot for me to prove there. And I find that very enticing. And I have completely fallen in love with video game development. Now, the great irony is the first game, I hope it's the only game I ever put out, but that it will grow over time. Kaizen, yeah, is focused on gameplay entirely. So it's a rules-based world. So we'll do storytelling breadcrumbs, but what we learned, because originally I thought, well, story's going to be our differentiator. It's how we'll make a name for ourselves. And then I found us spending millions of dollars it's roughly $1,000 for every second of footage. And so we would drop $85,000 on 90 seconds of footage. And I was just like, this is not sustainable. So we really had to get our feet under us as a game development company when what we knew was, well, I knew protein bar manufacturing, I knew YouTube, I didn't know game development. And so I'm very good at learning, I'll give myself that. But it really was, call it, I don't know, 2 years and somewhere between $5 and $8 million of money that I just blew.
How much?
5 to 8 million.
Okay.
That was just wasted in me making
invested.
In my knowledge, but I don't see a big need to sugarcoat it. It was like, if I knew then what I know now, I would not have done any of that. And I could have gotten much farther, faster for an absolute fraction of the price. So it really was, I love about me that I'm completely unafraid to just go do something. But when you have money and a fearlessness, you can end up blowing a lot of money. So that was one of those where, yeah, I'm glad that I figured it out. We're now very efficient with our capital, very efficient with how fast we develop. But I learned a very expensive lesson.
So guys, don't do this at home if you don't have a bunch of money in your bank account. Or you started this project Kaizen about 3 years ago or so.
4 now. Yeah.
But now AI hits with all his power. Is things changing now that you have AI?
Dramatically. So we went from, to get a new character in the game, meaning the design doesn't exist, we haven't written who the character is, we haven't rigged them, as people that understand game development know what that means. We don't have a 3D model, animations, nothing. That would take us about 3 months and somewhere in the neighborhood of 12 different people, not full time, but 12 different people are going to touch that through its life cycle over those 3 months to get it designed, get it modeled, get it in the game, animated, all that stuff. We can now do that in a day.
Oh my God.
A week if you're really going to let me like fine tune it. So that's with one person. So to go from 12 people 3 months to one person 1 week is insane. Like in terms of the cost, it's radical. Like there's no better word than that. When I look at our P&L, if you just looked at it, you would see like 2 huge drops. So drop number 1 is we just stopped being stupid. But drop number 2 in terms of output speeding up while costs come down was AI.
Some of my audience, maybe half of my audience is medium entrepreneurs to big companies, to big corporations. Now they are listening to you. Latin America normally is second in adoption of technologies. Why? I don't know, because now technology is ready to use for everyone. And of course, AI is going to be a little bit complex for big companies to adopt it.
Sure.
But give us a recommendation from your own knowledge about what is so important to adopt as fast as possible AI.
Well, so AI is just intelligence. And if I said to somebody, what's the most important thing that you look for in an employee? If they don't list intelligence, they're either lying or they themselves are not very bright. The number one thing you're looking for, it's not the only thing, but the number one thing you're looking for is intelligence. And so what we have spun up is intelligence. And so now it's like, well, how smart is it going to get? When you, as anybody knows, if you put somebody that's not quite intelligent enough in the wrong position, then they're going to be worse than nothing. And there was a time where AI was worse than nothing, but it is rapidly getting to the point where it's better than most humans at a lot of things. And so right now, the thing that AI is just unbelievably good at. Imagine that you have the world's expert in any topic available to you 24/7 for $200 a month. That's what AI is like. So it's the great synthesizer of information. It's not going to go invent something new yet. But if you're like, how does this work? No matter what this is, it knows. It has been trained on every bit of human knowledge. If we have talked about it or written it down, AI knows it. Now, I know that to some people that will seem incredulous because what they do is they ask AI a question, it gives them a terrible answer, and then they just go, AI is not good. And they don't understand how you have to treat it like a very smart friend who is biased and who has been trained sometimes to tell you the wrong thing because it has its own agenda. Or that friend might be really smart, but they don't know how to write or whatever. And so what you end up learning is different AI or different things. So if you want to understand sentiment in terms of real time, the world, what's going on, you're going to go to Grok because it's got access to X. If you want something that writes unbelievably well, you're going to go to Claude. If you are a YouTuber, for instance, and you want to like understand your data, how it applies to your audience, what your audience is doing, you're going to go straight to Gemini. I mean, it's even plugged into the back end of YouTube. It's called Ask Studio. Wow. And so there are all these different ways, whether it's like for our 3D pipeline in the video game, where we'll use Midjourney to come up with an image that's 2D. We'll feed that to a 3D AI program that will output a what's called a mesh. And so we get the 3D model, but it's awkward, it's weird. And so a human comes along, cleans it up a little bit. But again, you go from 3 months of work to a week's worth of work. And if you're thinking, oh, I'm just going to press a button and get the thing, people look at it and they go, it's not there. I don't know what these guys are talking about. But if you know how to pair it with a human, put it into a pipeline, shape it, nudge it, challenge it, right? Because you can actually convince an AI that it was like giving you bad advice. So there's no way to remove your need to understand what you're doing. And that might be the ultimate way that AI helps is you can learn the very topic that you have to understand in order to get AI to give you a good output by engaging with it and saying, hey, I don't understand this. And if you're mapping cause and effect, instead of just telling the AI, give me a fish, you're saying, teach me how to fish, and I need to make sure that I understand this, it's transformational and nothing short.
Now that I'm listening to you, it seems that AI, the question right now for human beings is how to train humans to ask better questions and to create better prompts and to understand that it's very different to the oldest way of coding. Is not code.
It's definitely not code. I'll give a slightly different take on that. What you're trying to teach the human how to do is to leverage AI's ability to synthesize and find data about anything you're trying to learn and then map cause and effect. And so you're using them like an incredibly intelligent human that knows about everything, but yet is still somehow a little bit awkward about its output.
It's still very new.
Yes. And if you are using it for you to get smarter so that you can then shape the way the output is presented to you from the AI, then it will speed you up dramatically.
So you have to train yourself with the LLM models in order for you to understand how the LLM models works in order for you to train them.
Yeah, and so you need two things to understand. The topic, which it's going to teach you.
Yeah.
And then once you understand it, then you can use it to better prompt and get better outputs. But if people do that, like I use AI 365 days a year, I spend, I'm going to guess, on average, 2 hours a day. It may be more because there are some days where I'll spend 8 to 10 hours where I'm just learning because I spend so much time in economics.
Yeah.
I'm just learning an economic principle and it's taking me a very long time. And then I'm going to write an essay about that thing. And so both in the learning phase and in the execution phase, I'm interfacing with the AI. So it's possible that I'm spending more than 2 hours a day with AI on average.
So from there, you started this project Kaizen 4 years ago with 80 people, 60 people. I remember you have a bunch
it fluctuated. Sometimes if you count contractors, it would go up to over 100 at a time.
And now you have barely 30?
No, six. 6 people on the game. The 30 is like the whole company all in.
And you love that because
that we're shrinking, yes, aggressively, because we're making more top line, making more profit, and in terms of the game, outputting things faster with a fraction of the people.
How do you manage to hire those guys? Because now it's not easy to get that level of subject matter experts to develop gaming and AI at the same time.
Well, that's tricky. Yeah, people are weird about AI. Even people that work for me where I'm so pro AI, AI is a massive anxiety pill. And so finding people that are both already good at something and willing to embrace AI is very difficult. And honestly, I don't begrudge people if they're panicking a little bit. I get that. So on that front, it's more just me trying to assure people I'm not looking to fire people to replace them with AI. What I'm looking for are people that are ninja level with AI. And so I want the people that I have to become more productive. And that is a magical place, even for that person. And so if you can just get people to understand one simple truth, whether you want it to be true or not, every company will have to insist that their employees augment themselves with AI. It's just too powerful. So if you don't know how to use AI, you will get fired. That is for sure.
That is for sure. And it's going to be working in every level and in all areas of work, correct?
Yes, for sure. So if you look at, there are going to be things that are pushed farther out. So if you're a designer, you're in real trouble because AI is extraordinarily good. If you're a copywriter, you're in real trouble. AI is extraordinarily good. So what'll happen is the best designers using AI will just be, instead of a team of 5, they're going to be a team of 1. And so you will still need a human, but they'll be augmented with AI in a big way. Same with a copywriter. I can't just go prompt it and it gives me like a bunch of magic. But if I have a good copywriter working with it, they're sped up 3, 4, 5x. So it is radically different. And so leveraging AI to just get better yourself and then leverage AI for the outputs is the play. Now, call it an electrician or somebody like that will have more time, but they're already at the industrial level. They're already showing robots that can change like the big telephone wires and stuff, completely automated, no human in. There might be someone somewhere controlling something, but they're certainly not up there at the pole making the swap out. So that kind of stuff will happen quickly. And then they've just launched these like fast food restaurants that are, the burgers are all being flipped by robots, not like a humanoid robot, but like mechanical arms and stuff that are in there flipping it. You can do the checkout without any human interaction. So yeah, people need to recognize it's not a question of if ultimately AI and robotics will be able to do your job better. It's just a question of timeline.
And I was just about asking you about your predictions. I've been here listening to Sam Altman, of course, the owner of Cloud. They hate each other.
Of course.
That's another question. That's another comment. And then, of course, Elon Musk, that they also hate each other. What is your prediction about AI in the upcoming 3 years?
In terms of what jobs will be displaced?
In terms of productivity, in terms of the human being, in terms of the amount of jobs that are going to be dismissed or changed?
So the number that I've heard that I think is pretty realistic is 300 million. I think that's in 5 years. So if you assume that they're off by a lot, and let's say in the next 3 years, that's 50 million jobs. That already is disruptive enough to be riots in the streets and things like that. So even if an absolute fraction of what is predicted comes to pass, it's going to be very disruptive. And unfortunately, this is a tale as old as time in terms of what happens in these cycles. So if you look at the Industrial Revolution, if you look when we electrified, it plays out the same thing with the internet. It always plays out the same. The generation that's, call it mid-30s to 50s, that have already learned the technology, they're already 10 or 15 years deep in their career, they're going to get obliterated. They're going to, right now, the people that are dying of deaths of despair here in America, so drug overdose, alcohol-related deaths, there's so many of them that they've actually drugged down the life expectancy of Americans, full stop. So like, let that sink in. Yeah. That is largely due to the internet taking over. And so all the people whose jobs just went away, bookstore owners, things like that, people working in a small bookshop, those jobs just went away. They became Amazon. And so those people didn't get retrained, some percentage of them. And that always happens. Same with the Industrial Revolution. So if you were, this was a real job, a knocker-upper, where you would go along the streets and knock on people's doors because alarm clocks didn't exist. And then alarm clocks come into existence, that job just goes away. People that dealt with horse and buggy, obviously when the car comes along, those just all go away. And technology has a long-standing history of always creating more jobs than it eliminates. However, for somewhere in the neighborhood of 40 to 80 years, the people that got displaced, they're toast. So they're in a bad spot. Because they're in a bad spot, their kids are in a bad spot, and it's not until their grandkids that the grandkids then take advantage of the Industrial Revolution, of electrification, of the internet, but they just got an early grave, literally. And so we're going to go through that level of disruption. So maybe AI really does continue the trend, and it creates more jobs than it takes, but that does not help that generation of people that are, say, 33 and up. They're going to get hit by a Mack truck.
That is going to take me to one of my favorite topics, which is education. And you have this impact theory university. You put university on purpose. In Latin America, or for the Hispanic community, for the governments to approve a pensum or syllabus, it will maybe take between 3 to 5 years to approve it.
Wow.
Meaning that whatever is coming right now, it was submitted 5 years ago.
Right, so it's old.
It's old. I don't know how does it work in the US. I think it's very similar. What do you think about that? What do you think about education? So
it will be completely disrupted. So education is becoming a joke in America. So we have something like 42% of all kids are unable to read or do math at grade level. That's catastrophic failure.
For a fact, that's a
yeah, and we spend
statistic.
more per student, I think, than any country in the world. And so we're spending more, getting a worse result. And you're now in a world where AI already today, it does not need to make a single another advancement. AI right now, today, off the shelf, will be better at tutoring your kids than any teacher will. So the method of education is completely antiquated. It will become up to the minute. Some ungodly number of millions of parents are pulling their kids out of public education here in the US to homeschool. Presumably, call it 98% of those people will homeschool using AI, and those kids will just be better educated. So the education system is going to get a nuclear bomb dropped on it. And my hope, I think that's for the best. And then my hope is that we do something more akin to like school vouchers here in the US, where the government goes, all right, cool, listen, this is the budget for a kid. For a school to qualify, the student has to meet certain standards. So as tested by a third body, you don't want the school, obviously, providing the test. And so if they can prove that, let's say they can read and do math at grade level, great. Then the school maintains its its credentials and can continue to be a place that people can choose to send their kids to. So then you get the competition among parents who are like, well, is the school any good or not? And then they can take their kid wherever they want. And then the schools will be incentivized to make sure that those kids have the best lifetime performance outcomes. Now, so much of this is on the other side of, call it the technological singularity, where we really don't know. Like 20 years from now, nobody knows what the world's going to look like. But if everything were to hold today, it would play out something like that.
That take me a lot of different questions, but number one is about the big universities. You are coming from a big university. The big universities are part of the American dream.
Yeah.
I mean,
or the old American dream.
Still the American dream. I mean, this is a shifting, and this is the moment. I want to understand your thoughts about.
If I had a kid, I would not be priming them
were,
for university. I'll say that.
And then, so what will be the path, depending on your skills, depending on your abilities?
All that really matters in life is, can you execute? So I would be having them work with AI and the greatest minds that I could get access to for the kid to learn the thing that they actually want to do. Life is ultimately like, what are the things that you do? That's it. There's no grand mystery. So if somebody wants to be a speaker, well, you have to get up on stage. You have to have a topic you're going to speak about. You had to go learn about that thing. You hopefully built some credibility by doing that thing before you try to become a speaker. And then once you decide to make the switch to speaker, the thing you do is you go speak. And so it's like no one cares what degree you have if you don't know about the thing. Now, being a surgeon or something like that, obviously, there's going to be an element of, okay, I really do care about that. But even that, I think, is ultimately going to go away. It's going to be, first of all, AI and robotics will just take over that industry. But it really is like, what product can you deliver?
Because you are one of these guys that you have interviewed thousands of people, maybe.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Maybe more, but I would say 1,000 people from different topics, different angles, different nationalities. And because of that, they will put you with a bunch of people changing education forever. Give me the skills or the abilities, maybe not the subjects because those will change with the time, but give me the skills or the abilities that you will, yes or yes, you have to study this.
There's three things that people need to know. If they have these, then they'll be fine. The first is the ability to control yourself emotionally. So you have to be completely emotionally stable. The next one is to think from first principles. So to literally think up from physics, to not get trapped in your own frame of reference or somebody else's. So think like an engineer. And then the third is all cause and effect. So the world works in a certain way. We live in a rules-based universe. And if you can understand how one thing causes another, you're not always going to be successful, but you will always know the path. And then it just becomes a question of whether you can walk it because of cause and effect. And man, if you can get people to orient around those, now most people lack all three. That's the bad news. So most people are completely a slave to their emotions. And in fact, when I talk about not being a slave to your emotions, I get so much backlash. And I'm just like, have fun. Like, you're going to be a mess because I get how good emotions feel. And in my marriage, there's a place for emotions. But even in my marriage, if I don't understand cause and effect, I'm going to find myself divorced and completely confused as to why. And so if you have control of your emotions and you can focus your mind and aim it at what you want, you can be persistent, you can be diligent, you can be focused, all of that. Then if you really can think up from physics, so first principles, then you can build things. So video games is such a profound example of this. So if you don't understand it, it looks like magic. You have one guy on the team who's a magician and you say, I want it to do this, and it just magically does that. And you're just like, wow, that's so cool. And then you realize, oh, wait a second, these are all logic gates. You're just walking people through like if this, then that statements. So if this is true, then there's a string of logic that goes to another node. If that's true, go here. And then it tells this node, okay, this is the logic of what you do, but the specifics will be found in this data table. And so if you understand how those logic nodes are constructed, all of a sudden you can do what the magician can do. And all of life is like that.
You were mentioning the three arenas, and I want to dive into the first one, which is the emotional part. And I understand why people backlash you, because in that arena of managing emotions, you are like, I don't care. In the social arena of having friends, you only take one decision. It's listen, and that's it.
Yeah.
How does Tom manage that part of
Well, so let's
life?
separate two ideas. So one idea is the ability to stay emotionally sober, and yet you still have incredible relationships and all that. You're just not a volatile person. So you know what your goals are and you act in accordance with your goals. And we all know people like that. They're calm in a storm. They are exactly who they say they are, but they're wonderful friends. And it's very enjoyable to be around them. And maybe they shed a tear in a movie. It doesn't, like, I'm not saying don't have emotions. I'm saying don't let emotions run your life. So that's one. The other is I self-isolate. And is that a good strategy or not? And I would say that comes down to personality. I think you would jump out of your skin if you self-isolated like I do. And I would jump out of my skin if I had to live your life. So I just cannot be around people like that all the time. And yes, so that is be true to yourself. And I just know that about myself. I collapse inside of myself in a way that I find deeply pleasurable. Now, my entire life, is within the context of I've been married for 23 years. So I've got that incredible, important relationship in my life. So all of my isolation is within the context of a thriving marriage. And I also run a company and have run companies for the last almost 25 years. So now it's like, I'm always seeing people, I'm always engaging with people, I've got my wife. So when I say that I self-isolate, it's within a context of being in a very vibrant community of people that have shared vision and are trying to build something and all of that. But I do think often that my companies would be bigger if I really enjoyed that, oh my God, I just want to be involved. And what are you working on? And how can we I'm not that guy. I'm like, you know what you need to do? Yes, cool. You know what you need to do? Yes, cool. I'm going to go do the thing I need to do. And then if somebody needs handholding, they'll leave. And the number of employees I've lost, I lose employees really for two reasons. One, I'm incredibly intense. So I'm always doing a lot. I'm always moving. I'm extremely passionate, and I expect people to play at a high level. And then two, I don't, some people, and this is not a bad thing, but some people really need that personal connection. They really need that engagement.
A lot of people.
A lot, maybe most. And at this stage in my life, because I used to just do it, even though I didn't want to, I used to spend an inordinate amount of time doing that. I'm built for the AI age. I'll be very honest, where it's like, I need fewer people. We can do more. I try to surround myself with people that are self-motivated, that want to do their own thing. And then like anybody, I love to connect with people. It's really fun. Just left to my own devices, I tend to collapse inside of myself instead of finding myself seeking out engagement with other people. And that does cause problems for me. That's for sure.
The funny thing is that you spend a lot of time asking questions for people. So how does your brain works in order to absorb that?
Well, so here's one of my obsessions is that knowledge has utility. So there's a very small set of beliefs that just govern my entire life. And that, I'll put them as simply as I can. Playing games is fun. Playing to win is even more fun. Winning gets you things other people can't get. Knowledge is the key to being able to play and win. So it's like, oh, snap. So you're saying I can really get good at whatever game I've decided to play, and getting good at that is really going to matter. It's going to change my life, change how much money I have. It will change the quality of my relationships. It will change how many people in the world know me and are impacted by my work. And I just have to amass the skill set. And so that once I realized that was true, asking somebody a question was no longer about an exchange between humans. And it was, oh, this is an opportunity to grow and get better at something. And so now I'm like, I am not trying to prove to people what I know. I want to know what they know, because now I can get their superpower and I can use it in my own life. And I've said that to people so many times, and I can just tell it never quite lands. The thing that I mean when I say skills have utility, skills let you do something other people can't do. And if you ask questions of a human, of AI, whatever, you can learn that thing. I'll give you a very concrete example. In the last 3 years, I have made more money off of learning about investing than I've made off my business.
Already?
Yes. Because bro, especially at my level of wealth, if you get an investment right, it's big money. And I didn't know investing 3 years ago. And so it's one of those where, when I say it has utility, I mean real dollars and cents in your bank account. I've taken the time to learn this thing. I've actually done something with the knowledge, and it's allowed me to make millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars.
And that has happened because of the people you are interviewing.
The people I'm interviewing, the things that I'm learning, whether that's, these days, largely through AI, but yes, and YouTube videos. I consume an inordinate amount of YouTube videos.
And a lot of people consume you in YouTube as well.
Yeah, fair.
You started YouTube podcasting about 8 years ago?
10.
10 years now.
It's wild.
10 years ago. What is the role of the podcast for your life? Let's start with Quest, moving all over to what the podcast role is right now for your future.
Well, so podcasting at Quest was very early. And so that was fun to be one of the first people doing it. It was not a straight line. So I talked to people a lot about straight line marketing.
What did it help? Quest?
Yeah, a little bit. That wasn't like some big win or
Okay.
anything. Because what you'd want to do is straight line marketing. So all the shows that we did around how to make healthy food delicious, that's straight line marketing. It drives people into sales. That was good for the business. Me doing a show around mindset was sort of interesting. It gave the brand like a little bit of depth, but like that was never going to be the thing that moved the needle at the company. Now, obviously, it's my core business. And so as the podcast goes, so goes the rest of Impact Theory. It's the way that I introduce people to Impact Theory University, which drives a ton of revenue for us. It also drives a ton of ad revenue for us. It's also, even though it's not a straight line by any stretch, but it gives me a vehicle to tell people that I do game development so that, in December of 27, a lot of people have heard me talk about it, but ultimately we will have to make a straight line there, which we'll start doing towards the end of 26. But that's aimed at kids. And so I'm never going to be the face of a franchise aimed at kids. And so that'll be something that we'll have to square that circle.
Being brutally honest, I started podcasting now at my 52 years. You know a little bit about my business and about my networking. Do you think it's a good idea?
Of course. Of course. For what you do, it is a very straight line.
It's not
Yes.
late?
I don't think in those terms. There is always room for the best. Always.
That's one of your phrases.
Yes. So you've got to get good, and there's a ton of noise. There's so many people competing for attention. Remember, you're not just competing for attention with other people in your space, you're competing with the funny cat video. So it's people are always one thumb swipe away from a new piece of content. So you got to be, you've got to be cognizant of how good you have to be to get real attention. But yeah, social media remains and I include YouTube in that, remains the number one way to get leads for your business, for you literally specifically.
What is that secret ingredient now that we understand more about your personality and you will not change this, and the people that is coming to your program, they understand that you will hit them hard, and you will ask whatever is helping you to get the information you want. So what is your secret ingredient inside your podcast?
Oh, in terms of how to make the podcast itself interesting?
Yes.
In the podcast, so our highest performing piece of content is something called a deep dive. The interviews don't perform as well as the deep dives, which is interesting because they used to be our biggest piece of content until I started doing solo content.
Oh, wow.
The reason that deep dives perform well is I'm walking people through first principles thinking, cause and effect in the most consequential issues of the day, largely around economics. So economics and AI. We do politics, but I don't do many deep dives around politics. Okay. The lives are about politics. And that's really just, how do you think about this? Who should be voting for? What's going to be good for you, bad for you, whatever. But even that has a major economic slant to it. That's certainly what my audience is really into. But the interviews themselves are really, if you can approach it from genuine curiosity, you're really trying to learn and you can take the user on that same journey. And I've always believed the thing that is the closest thing to a secret sauce or a superpower is that I'm not afraid to look stupid. So I'm actually going to understand this. And I'm going to stop you and I'm going to ask you to repeat something until I can say, okay, this is what I think you're saying. Is that accurate? So that way people following along at home are like, whoa, I actually learned about that thing in this interview.
What will be your recommendation for people? As I was telling you, I have a live class today, tomorrow, and the day after, for people that still working on the corporate side and they want to become entrepreneurs and they don't know how to jump. So what will be your recommendations according to your philosophy of never regret about in trying to do something else?
Yeah, they just have to know what they're trying to build. So if they're thinking of entrepreneurship as like a vague thing, like, oh, it's running a business. No, I mean, that's the thing you necessarily have to do in order to do the thing entrepreneurs actually do, which is solve a problem. So an entrepreneur looks at the world and says, oh, there's this problem. I'm going to make a product that solves that problem. And then the running of the business is simply getting to the point where I can sell that solution for more than it costs me to make. But it's really about problem solving. And so if you get somebody who's trying to make the leap to go, what problem are you solving? Once they understand that, then it's like, cool, now what do you need to do to actually solve that problem such that the only issue you have is people don't know you have the solution. And so now marketing simply becomes telling people, hey, you know that screaming problem that you have that's keeping you up at night? I've solved that. Here's that solution. And if they like are trying to be a corporate speaker, it's like, why do companies hire corporate speakers? They're trying to entertain their people. They're trying to reward their people. They're trying to educate their people. Like, you know, what exactly zone are you going to fill? And then you go, how do you do it so well that that person is now a hero inside of their company because you showed up? What would you need to do, right? You need to be entertaining. You need to lead people with like a real like takeaway that they can go do something with that thing. And so as you think about, okay, my job is to solve a problem. I understand exactly what that problem is. And now I know that's 2, 3, 4, 5 skills, not going to be more than that. I'm going to put them together and now I'm just going to go practice. And I advise people to not quit their day job. So we built Quest while running a software company that we also started. So if we were able to do those 2 companies and running Quest on nights and weekends, nobody has any excuse. They just don't want it badly enough.
And also, normally I recommend them to take a look at timing. I mean, time really flies. Time is money. Time is one of the most valuable assets. What is your concept about timing or time?
So I think of humans as economic units. It's so funny how this stuff really does sound robotic. This is just because I've thought about this stuff so much, so I have frameworks for everything. But I assure you I'm a normal human being.
No, I know. No, I know you are not.
You know I'm not.
That's a good part of you.
Okay, so we're all economic units. And once you realize that life is, from a structural standpoint, I don't mean modern life, I mean life, is about saying, I don't want to have to do everything myself because I'm likely to starve to death. And I mean that literally. This is where us becoming economic units comes from. So if I have to do everything myself, figure out how to make the fishing rod, the lure, the bait, actually stand out and do the fishing, get it back, clean it, gut it, cook it, make my bed, build my shelter, all that. The odds that I survive winter are basically 0. So people realize very quickly, okay, listen, I'm good at part of this, you're good at part of this. In fact, if you go do the fishing, I'll stay here and build the rod. So I'll go cut the trees down, whatever. And then people go, well, actually, if you cut the trees down, I'll whittle them into a fishing rod. And it's like, well, I'll be the guy that makes the knives. And, you know, and you just start specializing so that everybody does the thing that they like and are good at. And they get better and better at that thing over time. And then people start innovating. And that's that. We could do a whole podcast just on why innovation is the single most important thing people should focus on. If you're thinking of building an economy, a business, whatever, it's all about innovation. And so we, as humans, ask ourselves, okay, what can I do to make the most money with my time? So when people say time is money, it's not like a clever or greed thing. It is literally, money is an abstraction that allows us to specialize. So when we say time is money, what we mean is time is potential and optionality. So I'm going to do a thing that is hopefully extraordinarily valuable to the group. And in exchange, you'll give me an abstraction so I don't have to trade a fishing rod for a coat. I can just say, give me the abstraction, and then I'll use that abstraction with all these other people. And this is how money comes into being, whether it's what we're used to, whether it's gold, whether it's seashells, doesn't matter. It is exactly that. We will always come back to exactly that because evolution has just proven that's the formula. So whether it's digital or it's seashells, it's going to be the same idea.
When I get in love with your content, you were talking a lot about those guys or that people that they don't fight enough. They want to change the world, but at the second punch, they never went back or they decided to stay in the floor.
Yeah.
In Latin America, there's a lot of people like that. the potential is tremendous. It's a big potential. I was telling you about the size of the Mexican economy, for example.
Yep.
But people is afraid, and because they are afraid, they decide to fight each other instead of understanding what are the necessary tools in order to fight enough, in order to become someone. And that is why when they see a success story in the US, say, oh, but that is in the US. And I say, no way, it's everywhere. So what are those components, according to your mindset, that people need in order to achieve whatever they want?
Failure is the most information-rich data stream on planet Earth. So that's very important. Meaning, don't be afraid of failure, because you'll actually learn more from that. So the reason I'm able to make video games at the efficiency level that we now make video games is because I was unafraid to make mistakes in the early days, made those mistakes. They taught me incredible lessons. You deploy those, you get better, you move faster. The other one is what I call the only belief that matters. The only belief that matters is if I put time and energy into getting better at something, I will actually get better. So that goes back to the idea that skills have utility. So you find the thing that you're trying to do. Why am I not able to do that yet? Oh, I'm missing a skill. Go acquire that skill, put time and energy into getting better. You will get better. And then you can deploy it against whatever it is you're trying to create. And then something I call the physics of progress. And the reason I call it the physics of progress is there is no other way to make progress. So other people will explain it to you using different words, but we're all saying the same thing, because there really isn't another way. And that way is, it's the scientific method recontextualized for business. And you figure out, what am I trying to do? What's the obstacle between me and where I'm trying to get to? And then what's my best guess, my hypothesis on what I would need to do in order to get to that result? Because you don't know that you're right, you need to write down what you expect to happen so that you'll get smarter as you do this. And then you do the thing. Then when you do the thing, you make sure you assess the data. And in assessing the data, if you don't lie to yourself, which most people do, but if you don't, then you're going to learn and get smarter, because you wrote down what you thought was going to happen, and now you're comparing it to what actually did happen. And there's a big concept in here that people always lose sight of, which is called rate of change.
Rate of change.
Yes. Oftentimes people are like, well, this was a big success. We move forward towards our goal. But then you go, cool, at your current rate of progress, how long will it teach you to reach your goal? Oh, 16,000 years. Cool. That rate of change is not enough. So that was an abject failure. Even though you actually did take a step in the right direction, but your rate of change is so low that you're just never going to get there. And so that brings me to another thing, which is always assume linear growth, not exponential growth. So if you do something and you added 150 people, let's say that 150 people is actually 30% growth. 30% month over month would be exponential growth. Do not assume that. The 150 people, assume you're going to add 150 people next time. But next time, it won't be 30%. It's a smaller number now, a smaller percentage. Yeah. So assume 150, 150, 150, 150, and then look at your rate of change. What everybody does is go, that's 30%, 30%, 30%, 30%, 30%. That's going to, oh my gosh, this is amazing.
It's not cumulative. You need to understand.
Correct. And so if you model all that out and then start again at the beginning of that loop going, okay, I can only assume if I do this again, I'm going to get another 150 or 3 or whatever the real answer is. If you do it another thing again, then it's like, oh, was that better or worse? So if the next thing we try adds 360 people, it's like, that one's better. So we're not just going to repeat the first one. Now we've got something new. If we do it again and the answer is 65 people versus our 150, it's like, okay, you move backwards. And you just keep doing that, new hypotheses, testing all the time, documenting everything so that you're not losing the momentum of like, wait, what were we testing this time? Because then you just like, you're trying a bunch of things, but you're not able to capture the momentum. And in business, there's actually a really important concept that comes from sailing known as velocity made good.
That is momentum.
Yes. So velocity made good is the wind is blowing, I'm trying to go somewhere, and I have sails. And I can turn the sails, but I can't change the way the wind is blowing. And I can't change necessarily where I'm trying to end up. So if the wind is blowing at an inconvenient angle, I have to turn my sails and then tack back and forth so I can get some momentum, and then sort of drift back in the wrong direction, catch the momentum, get that to push me in the right direction, tack back into the wrong direction, catch the wind. And so you do this tack back and forth thing to get moving in the direction that you actually want to go. And if you can do that, that's velocity made good. In a business, doing that is making sure you know what you're trying to test, learning your actual lesson so that the next time you try it, it's more likely to be better, to move faster.
So it seems that in order to get momentum between your company, you have to get momentum within yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And in order for that to happen, you have to spend a lot of time with yourself, training yourself. I know that you are atheist, but do you meditate? Like
I do. Yeah, at times I will meditate a lot, but I don't always meditate. Depends on what I'm trying to do.
Because I was trying to think how much time you dedicate to yourself, like to get momentum within
Well, so
you.
if you think about my life as I am always either ingesting information or synthesizing information, and I mean almost always. So that leaves me with a lot of ideas that I'll journal about. So I'll write them down constantly. So I must have over 100 pages of notes on Kaizen at this point. And forget all the official documentation, which is hundreds more.
That's just for you. That's your
Literally
own
just for
knowledge.
me. Yep. So that's me thinking about how game development works, thinking about why is something boring? How do we make this more fun? Same idea with business principles. So what's working in the company, what's not working in the company? Why isn't it working? What's my hypothesis? And so while I will only sit down and formally meditate if either I'm stressed or I have a really thorny problem that for whatever reason nothing is coming to me, then I'll sit down and meditate, because you're trying to actually shift into a different brain wave state so that you get like different kinds of ideas. You get into, if I remember right, you get into a theta wave state or beta wave state. I forget which one now.
Yeah,
Beta.
I think it's beta.
And that allows for farther flung connections in the brain to be made. So things you might not otherwise connect, like in a meditative state, you will. I often hear of it referred to as calm and creative, and that feels pretty accurate. So yeah, if I'm stuck on a thorny problem, then I'll sit down and officially meditate.
And that's also because you're doing this. That's why you do this fasting. And it's not fasting. I mean,
I don't
sometimes
fast
you
for
only
that
eat
reason, but-
once a day, right?
Yeah, usually twice a day.
Usually twice.
So I'll go, my intermittent fasting is on average for a year, it's going to be about 17 hours. So I eat 2 meals in a pretty narrow window. And the goal there, I mean, you do get some mental clarity, and there's no doubt, like if you do something fasted, you can feel that your brain is just a little bit sharper. If you're north of like 12 or 14 hours, you're going to be a little bit sharper. But honestly, you can probably make up that same sharpness with either ketones or nicotine. So I don't use fasting for that a lot anymore, just because I found easier ways to do it. But yeah, it does work for sure. I use fasting more for body composition.
Okay.
So it allows me to manage my hunger. It allows me to stay lean. So that's primarily why I do that.
So your best formula or ingredient to develop your mindset, you will say, is journalism?
Well, the most important thing would be sleep.
The sleep.
So get sleep. That's number one. Everything is downstream of sleep. Journaling, if you're not sure about something or you've got an idea that you want to explore, extraordinary for that. And in terms of like just getting to the bottom of a problem, it's always going to be running an experiment. So actually go do something. The number of times you're going to think your way to the solution is pretty low. You'll come up with an idea via thinking, but you won't know if it's going to work until you try it. And so part of the way that we're developing Kaizen is to have the programmers expose as many things as possible via data table variables. That way I can go in and adjust those incredibly fast. And I can just iterate, and see what's fun. Whereas if you do everything in blueprints, you have to do a build and all that stuff, which anyway, game developers know what I'm talking about. But a data table, literally it's instant. You make the update, you go back to the game, and it now works like that. And there's a lot of things that you can adjust via variables. And so what I'm always telling people is if you're building a game, play the game. Play the game. And then just say, where am I bored? Why isn't this fun? And then what variable would I need to address? Because it's always a lever. There's nothing magical. It's you adjust how many bullets you get, or how many bullets you can hold, or how fast a bullet travels, or how high a player jumps, or when they encounter a character, whatever. And you start adjusting those things, and it has these huge knock-on effects to ultimately what you're trying to do, which is impact the brain chemistry of the person playing it.
You have chosen a very competitive category, my friend.
Yeah.
Gaming. You have AI, AE. You have a lot of big companies working there.
Yeah.
Why?
That's really passion. So at some point, you'll ask yourself a question: what's the thing I love doing even when I'm losing? It's a very important question to ask. I've never had more fun than I have developing a video game. In professionally, literally never. So that is cool. Like, the game could tank and no one will get to take back these last 4 years. It's just been too incredible. And then I really do ask myself, given my passion and my skill set, how can I make the biggest contribution to the tribe, the world, if you will? Mm-hmm. And because I am an adult, I cannot help myself but want to impact other adults, though I think adults are very hard to impact.
Really?
Very much so. But I find myself drawn to it. So that's all the stuff that I do in
Impact your university.
Yeah, with the university, with the political stuff, economics, all that. But I think the biggest contribution anybody can make is to help kids grow up well. And I don't have kids myself, so I think in terms of like Walt Disney and how much he influenced culture at an age where kids are still pliable. And so my hope is that I can intercept them in what's known as the age of imprinting, which is 11 to 15, with the only belief that matters. That if they put time and energy into getting better, they will actually get better. But to do it through the game and the game narrative.
That's amazing. I promise to make this interview 1 hour. I can stay forever asking you questions. You know that. But I want to let you know that you are part of the 1% of the people changing the world. That's for true. That's for true. You have impacted hundreds of thousands of people through your podcast. You are impacting a bunch of people while teaching them how to do things better, people that works for you. And of course, now you are going to impact the life of the gamers. What is that 1% that you want to change in people's life? You are part of the 1%. What do you want to change in life?
Well, the big thing that when I'm on my deathbed, I will want to look back and say, I at least really gave it my all, because again, being successful, you can never guarantee you'll be successful. But the thing that I really, really hold myself accountable to really trying is helping kids become wildly optimistic about their future because they believe that they can achieve the things they set their mind to. And that's tied to the only belief that matters. So if I can just get that across, but really deeply embed it in a child's framework of how the world works, I would really consider my life having had value.
I'm pretty much sure some of the parents are going to show this to their kids. And I want one last advice. You have been in front of my community. You know them a little bit. They have been asking you questions about you, your programs, your whatever, the way you get rich, which is a word that you hate. And I know why you hate it. And I agree with that. But for a lot of people, maybe one final advice from your side.
Well, something that we haven't talked about is ultimately, despite all the things that I've said about controlling your emotions and all of that, the greatest thing that life has to offer you is love. And whether that's a passion that you're pursuing because you love, like in my case, storytelling, or the power of gaming, or just the raw joy of it, to have that in your life. And then humans. If I didn't have my wife, I don't even want to know what my life would look like. And so making sure that, given that that really is the greatest thing that life has to offer you, to be open to that, to do the things to be worthy of that, that's going to be very important.
You see, you always give me food to throw you another question. Last one. Promise. Last
I'll
one.
take your time.
What is the importance of Lisa in your life?
Oh, I actually do not know who I would have become if I wasn't shaped by her so profoundly growing up. We decided in our early 20s when we met that we were going to run an experiment. What does life look like if you share it with somebody all the way? And so far it's been incredible. And it's been wild. I mean, we've been together for 25 years, so a quarter of a century. On our first year anniversary, I gave her a 50th anniversary card, and I said, I'm going to spend the rest of my life earning that. And so I've stayed very true to that so far. And it is I believe, evolution, as you said earlier, I don't believe in God, but, to each their own. I believe that we have evolved, or God made us, whatever works for people, to be in partnership with somebody. And I'll round it to a man and a woman. Obviously, there are many beautiful combinations that people can find themselves in, but just from what have we been optimized for? It's that. And so having somebody that views the world differently than you is incredibly useful. Having somebody that wants you to win but expects a lot from you is incredibly useful. Having somebody that when you are knocked to your knees, they don't get on their knees with you and cry.
She pushes you hard.
They extend a hand and pick you back up. They brush you off, remind you of who you're trying to be. Because you want support. You don't want somebody who's just a drill sergeant. But at the same time, I never wanted somebody to cry with me. No, help me get up. That's what I want. And to give you the opportunity to do all of that for them. To be somebody's number one is the most extraordinary gift. To be the number one for somebody is an extraordinary honor and responsibility. And so, it is, it's part of the fullness of life.
I've been around you guys when you are having a debate, which is quite particular because you guys you really mean it. You don't want to have the reason or the truth, but you will defend your part.
Yeah, of course. Hey, you say what you believe, for sure. So, Lisa and I learned very early on how to disagree productively. So neither of us are trying to be right. Neither of us are trying to win the argument. But if I'm not convinced, I'm going to keep saying, I'm not convinced for these reasons. And so we have
That's cool.
Yeah, it's the only way to move through life.
Man.
I don't understand. I mean, it actually gets pretty easy if you really aren't trying to win and you're trying to understand. And so you're saying, what we'll do with each other is, okay, we're trying to get to base assumptions. So whenever somebody says something, they have a base assumption that makes them say that thing. And so that final thing that they say may seem crazy to you, but if you had their same base assumptions, you might be surprised that you actually would say the same thing. Now, you may disagree with their base assumption, but if you had it, and so when you can map somebody's base assumptions, it's like, oh, cool. I get now why you believe what you believe. I believe something different. It's, your base assumption number 3, I don't think makes any sense. I don't think you have any evidence in the world to back that up. Here's what I believe, why I believe it. But now I can say, I understand your position. You understand my position. We just don't agree on the base assumptions. Cool, no problem. And so at that point, it's like, I'm not going to try to browbeat you into seeing it my way. I just need to understand why you see it your way, understand why I see it my way. Do we both understand each other? Yes, we do. Cool. Then we'll move forward with some sort of rule of engagement around how we deal with that thing. Because once you identify whoa, we know each other's position. We just think the other person's out of their mind. And so now it's well, we're going to keep living together. So how do we navigate? How do we avoid this topic becoming destructive?
You think that we as a society, human society, we know how to debate?
No, I think that, it's going to be a spectrum. Some people are going to be extraordinary at it, and then other people are going to be terrible at it. Largely comes down to whether you control your own emotions. Comes down to whether you want to win an argument or whether you want to get better at something. And so if people can break free of trying to win the argument, if they can break free of a belief that their way of seeing the world is objectively right and just realize it's not objectively right, it's just your way. And so now it's, come to understand the other person, understand you, and then come up with the rules of engagement. But for the most part, especially with the word debate, people think, no, this is a blood sport and I'm just trying to win.
And that will take us back to point number 1, which is manage your own emotions, control your emotions. Tom, thank you so much. I'm telling you this off the air. Please use me as much as possible. If I can help you with whatever you think I can help you, you have a friend in here.
I appreciate that very much.
And you know how much I admire you, and it has been a pleasure to have you here in my podcast. And thank you for having me in your show and using your cameras and your team. I really appreciate it, man. Thank you so much.
Truly, my pleasure.
Chicos, esto fue un capítulo más de Doers. Hoy tuvimos un gran programa con Tom Bilyeu. Recuerden poner el nombre de Tom y la palabra PDF y te mandamos todas las notas. ¡Wow! Hoy fue un gran capítulo para mí. Así que en lo que me la creo, les mando un gran abrazo. Cuídense mucho. No olviden activar las campanitas y esas chingaderas para que esto lo puedan ver más personas. Cuídense mucho. Adiós.